This is Propulsion, the financial professional's catalyst to exponential growth. Are you a driven and ambitious financial professional, but you are finding it hard to break through to the next level? Or are you struggling to build and run your practice successfully? Join Francois Dutoy, a leading consultant and trainer, as he interviews not only the experts, but also people you have never heard of before, but who have done amazing things, about how they run their practices, the challenges they face, how they overcome those challenges, their failures, which tech has improved their business, how their revenue models work, and other practical aspects. We go deep so you can learn as much as possible. And here is your host, Francois Dutoy.
Today's guest knows all about what it takes to run a financial services business. She has been in the thick of things working for companies like Sanlam, PPS and cashcows.com. She fulfilled roles such as business development manager, regional sales manager, and most recently, her current job, she is the head of operations of Financial Solutions for Professionals, a wholly owned financial services provider owned by PPS. Lizette, what a pleasure to have you on Propulsion.
Thank you.
Thank you for joining us.
Good morning, Francois. Thank you very much.
All the way from Pretoria. Was the traffic bad?
No, it was fine.
Was
Luckily,
it fine?
No power outages today.
No load shedding, no nothing. Lizette, thanks for taking the time to talk to us. I'm quite excited to talk to you. And the main reason why I'm so excited to talk to you, I'm excited to talk to all my guests, but in particular with you today, because you are busy building a new independent financial planning practice from scratch in these lovely times that we live in. So I really want to get into detail with that. But why? Why are you busy doing this? And can you tell us a bit more?
Yes, thank you, Francois. In 2017, when the RDR regulations became a reality, PPS came to the conclusion that they really needed to do something. A lot of their clients, members were sitting with financial advisors that are still agents, that are still within the big corporations. So in about November 2017, we were given the mandate to actually go ahead and do this. So that December, we were drawing circles and doing logos and trademarking and registering the company. And then it took us about 6 months to get everything off the ground. So on 1 June 2018, we officially started as a juristic rep under the succession license, which means that we pay them a fee for every advisor for them to do our compliance and our commission payments. So now I am just acting as the key individual. And we are trying to recruit advisors out there that fit into the whole ethos of the professional market.
Yeah, that's fantastic. I think, many of the bigger companies have done this. So you look at the Momentums and the Liberties, they all have their own brokerages, if you will, if you can use the old terms, the brokerages, everybody knows what we're talking about. And it is sort of where you have all these offerings. So somebody can decide, am I a better fit to become an agent or tied? Or do I still want my independence? But I don't want to take care of all the day-to-day running. I just want to focus on giving advice and seeing clients. So was that part of the reason? So you want to be able to offer more to advisors who's looking for a home?
Definitely. How we always position it is that we come in on top of a practice. So your day-to-day running doesn't change, but we actually put that layer on top where we will bring in corporate governance, and we will act as the mentors or the coaches to really help you to take your practice to that next level with good practice development models and training, and just basically helping you to really be successful in the long term.
And that is so important. In practice, I see a lot when I consult with advisors and in their practices and stuff. It's not like they don't know how to deal with clients, although sometimes I think we assume that people know exactly how to engage with clients, and they don't always know, especially when things start to change and you need to change your approach. But I think our biggest challenge is for people, they've been financial advisors for so long. And just because you work for yourself doesn't mean that we necessarily know how to run a business properly. There's a big difference between the role of playing the role of a business owner and managing the business versus doing the job of a financial planner. So I think what you're doing is such an important thing, and it's also contributing to the bigger industry or profession. Like another guest that I had, we spoke a lot about becoming a full-fledged profession. And I think you play an important role in that. Now, obviously there are people out there that's maybe an agent with someone and they think of starting their own FSP, or you've got somebody who's just, they may be with an independent brokerage or they're with a bank or something, and they're thinking of, because always the solution looks like, I need to start my own thing. I need to get my own license. I'm quite keen to hear what the process was, what you went through. I mean, so obviously PPS said, let's do this. But there was a process then that you followed. You said it took you 6 months. So one of the things I want to talk about is why the juristic rep under succession, SFP, versus getting your own license. What was the reason for that? And then just maybe the journey for those 6 months. And then once you started, we'll talk about that, because that's also a different thing.
I think at the time, and I think that is any individual that wants to start their own brokerage, is you have to actually open all your different companies, all the product providers' licenses, and a lot of them actually ask for for security. So as an individual, you really need to investigate. If you had to give off a small split on commissions versus having all the surety in place. And also speed to market was one of our big concerns, where it would take months and months to actually set up all these contracts, where as a juristic rep under the succession license, we immediately had access to more than 130 contracts that they currently have on file.
Wow, that's a lot.
Also on the investment side, it helped us a lot because they've already got the investment board, they've done all the due diligence. So we could just on the back of that be assured that our advisors got access to the best investment houses out there. So it was really speed to market that was our main driver in going the juristic rep.
That makes sense. Why SFP?
It's interesting because, Sanlam and PPS went through this huge divorce in 2007. But I think the biggest reason was the professional focus. If you have to look in the professional market, there are really only 3 big players, and it's PPS, Sanlam, and Discovery. And just by the relationships that we've had with Sanlam all these years, it was something that we could pick up and we could actually make it work.
Okay. And SFP obviously has a PPS contract in any event.
That's right.
Okay.
So there was just a lot of synergy. And also traditionally the PPS advisors, the ones we wanted to target, were ex-Sanlam or were still with Sanlam. So it just made a lot of sense on a lot of levels.
Okay. Is there any risk in terms of the RDR proposals? Because they were talking about this thing about juristic reps, whether it would be allowed or not. Is there any risk for you in that in the longer run?
I think our biggest risk is that if we can no longer be a juristic rep, we will have to get our own license. So it is something that we're already investigating. Long term, that is most probably the route we will follow. But in the short term, we have just got all the clearances from the Reserve Bank and everything is above board for now. So it is really working well.
Just running like a train.
Right.
Awesome. All right. In terms of the proposition that you've put together, because it's one of those challenges today in the industry where it's more of the same. So whether you go to Momentum Consult and whether you go to Liberty Consult, or what I think they call Liberty Wealth or something.
Straight to Succession.
Or you go straight to Succession, just join a product provider. What makes FS4P, Financial Solutions for Professionals, then different? Or what's the unique value proposition that you put in place, apart from the fact that you focus on professionals? Because that has always been PPS's thing, so obviously that will carry through, and that's why the name also, I assume, says Financial Solutions for Professionals, because that's your ideal target market. Big assumption. But what is your unique proposition?
So what we have done is we have actually developed a really unique commission splits structure where our general commission is very similar to any other brokerage out there. So it will work on the tiers where a sort of a young person earning less than 500,000 will typically be in a 70-30 split. And then we go up to 90-10 for the 2 million plus advisors. But what we have done, which is unique, is we have put an additional, what we call a professional bonus, in most cases 4%, on top of the normal commission split. So every quarter, we actually go to all the product providers and we find out which risk business has been written in the professional market, and then we pay an additional 4% commission out of our split to the advisors, just to really promote that professional focus.
That's interesting, because I think that is one of the main drivers, is usually the remuneration models. It's a very important thing. And what is the proposition to the client, the actual client who you're giving advice to? What is the proposition to them?
In line with our whole focus and vision of for professionals by professionals, what has happened is we have drawn together a lot of advisors that have the same values and the same outlook. So I think from the client's point of view is if they're working with us, they know that they are working with somebody that is focusing on the professional market, that understands the professional industry, that gets the right training, that has the right focus. And even further on, when you start looking at succession planning, one of the most important things for the client is knowing that if anything happened to their advisor or they retired, the next person that is going to take over is also going to have that same professional focus and that whole professional ethos that they're working.
Let's jump into that, because you are the head of operations. So I'm quite keen. A lot of people tell us what we should be doing, or but they rarely share how you actually do it, because they want to sell you some kind of a coaching program or some sort of a training program to say, well, you need to go from A to B, but then join this so that we can show you how to get from A to B. So I'm interested in that. How are you getting from A to B? In other words, if you say that, you are recruiting people with the same sort of values, first of all, what are the values that's important to the business in itself? Because there needs to be an alignment of those values. And then I want to talk about, so that's the first point, the values. But then the second point I want to talk about is, how do you at this point ensure uniformity, so that whether I go to Piet or Koos, that I get the same experience, and if we work with the same advice, because that is the biggest challenges with running a bigger business. Many advisors think that they work for themselves and they do their thing in what they believe is the best advice. But if you want to do what you're saying, where there's discomfort from a client's point of view, where there's succession, pardon the pun, and I don't have to worry that if something happens to Koos, then Jan or Piet or Susie or whoever will be there in order to take care, and I will have the same experience, because that's the assumption then. But you don't want Susie going in there saying that, I don't know what Koos did, but he should have done this. So that's what you don't want. So how do you ensure that? So let's start with the values. Sorry, that was a very long-winded question, but let's start with the values first.
I think our values are, as I've mentioned, is very much to find that right professional advisor that we feel will fit into our culture. And we've got a culture of really caring for each other, very family feel to it. We really try and be involved in the day-to-day family, just the advisor's life. So we don't feel our advisors are just numbers. They can come to us at any time. And then from our side, we are very structured in the type of practice development planning we do with them. We started the year, everybody went through a very nice morning, 3-4 hours of practice development, working on their practice and making sure that they knew exactly where they were going. Because, as self-employed individuals, we do not give them any targets. We do not prescribe what product providers they are going to use, but we want to make sure that they're successful by achieving their own objectives. So we really try and work with them. We even go so far as in the recruiting process, we offer to come and sit with somebody and really analyze their practice and go through it and see how the fit is, where the touching points are, and how this will best work in future, so that even at that point, they can buy us as much as we then buy them. So we don't just look at figures on a paper.
That is so unique. Because usually everybody tells you, like, this is what you're going to get, and these are the splits, and this is the models and the bonuses and all these things you can get. And then the first time you hear about the targets is really when you arrive day one. But you've decided to go, let's enable them, let's support them, and then things will happen because that's just who they are.
And we're fortunate because Ian McMaster, my colleague, and myself, we both have an extreme passion for developing people, for making other people successful. So we're really loving this mentoring, coaching philosophy and approach that we've got to the business.
No, that is, I know I use the word fantastic a lot in my podcast, but this is really fantastic to hear that, because that is not usually the case. Most people will get you in, it's like they court you, they try and date you, but as soon as it gets to the marriage, then things changes. So yeah, you're really there for the long haul, and their success is your success.
I think it's also aligned with our whole philosophy. We never want to be a huge brokerage. We don't envision being another PSG or even another Succession. So for this year, our target is 30 advisors, and we see that even after 10 years, we might be only 100. So we really want to keep this focus, this exclusivity of being part of this professional family.
Yes, definitely. But it would also make sense from a target market point of view, because only 1% of South Africans are in fact professional. Am I right?
That's correct, yes.
I don't remember a lot of things, but some stats stick. So it would also make sense. Then you have quality, because I think that's part of the promise is that, come to us, we focus on professionals. So all the marketing, the branding, the support from PPS, all those kind of things is there. And then it's a fantastic opportunity to place the business where it is best suited.
Most suited for the client.
Yes, definitely.
And even in the professional market, I mean, we thrive in that market, but it's not the only place where people can obviously place.
Yes.
So we are an open platform, very independent. So we try and get the guys that have got the professional focus, but then it's open. They can place the family, and they can do any other products as well.
Yeah.
It's just the bonus that gets paid on the professional risk business, which is a bit of a difference.
So there's a bit of an incentive that if somebody would qualify for PPS, that they would place it there, but they're not compelled to do so.
Or Sanlam or Discovery. Any product provider that has a professional
product. There's nothing
saying
that you have to do like 60% for PPS and you can place 40% elsewhere. You can do whatever you want. But the business that do go to PPS, you can pay a bonus on that, but still within max
legal commission. Yeah.
Yes, okay. Very interesting. So my mind is racing 1,000,000 miles a second at the moment. I want to talk around the operational side of things. You mentioned PSG. Something that I've been realizing as we've been going through some of the interviews is that there seems to be this common theme coming about where people that are highly successful, or let me say businesses that are highly successful, are structuring themselves in a certain way. And what they're doing is, there are sort of two ways that you can do it. On the one hand is strategic alliances. On the other hand, you can have your own in-house offerings. But what I've been noticing is that, people would have accounting and tax. They would have, maybe there's a franchise involved. Maybe there is a short-term brokerage, PPS offers all those things. From that point of view, is there a long-term plan, if you're allowed to talk about that, because that can be strategic, but is there a plan to sort of say, okay, but how do we now, like PSG was the first to do it. I think they're the first well-known company to have done it, to have partnered with accountants, partnered with lawyers, that kind of thing. And that has proven to be very successful to them. And I've seen some of the bigger businesses that we've had discussions with already on the podcast. They've done the same thing, but they're doing it in-house. Because some of them, like the single independent on the corner may go and speak to the local accountant, and they may work together. But these businesses where they are employing multiple financial advisors, they've actually set up an accounting and tax practice. They've actually set up a legal arm. They've got trust and fiduciary services.
Yeah, thank you, Francois. In the long term, we might look at it, but that's definitely not in our foreseeable strategic planning, because we want to absolutely keep this independence. So we feel that most of the product providers out there are offering these services. So whether the people then use the Discovery legal consultant or they take the Liberty guy for a business assurance, we would rather let them have that good relationship with the product provider. So we really try and keep an open platform there. However, on an individual development side, when we do the planning with the advisor, we strongly suggest that they, in their area, then go and align themselves with people where there can be referral contracts in place. And we're also very big into developing work sites for the advisors. So we really try and help them to open that kind of stream of referrals.
Okay. Can you go
but
in a
we
little
don't
bit deeper on the work
prescribe
sites?
anything.
But on the work site, you say you were opening work sites?
That's right. So depending on the individual advisor's focus and obviously which areas they're working in and where they are very good at it, we try and get them to go into a company where obviously you start usually top down, speaking to the directors, setting things in place so that they can then have access to the individual employees. On the back of that, we make very sure that they understand the group benefits and, if at all applicable, where they can start getting involved in the group benefits and maybe when it comes up for review. So that's always a good way in. But it is just the good old days. Sanlam used to have these work sites and it just works. It's just so much easier to drive to one place, have an office and see 10 guys on a Tuesday, every Tuesday. They know you there. You know you're going to be there. It just adds that structure. And then on top of the group benefits, you then see the individual needs. So that is what we are sort of aiming towards doing for all of our advisors, is setting that kind of structure up.
That's one of the big differences, because I know the PPS advisors, PPS, like the agents, cannot do EB. Am I right?
That's correct. They can't do anything but the PPS
but
risk.
We
can do any products, yes.
Yes. So that can also be a nice collaboration, in fact. Yeah, just thinking out loud.
So interestingly enough, I have opened PPS head office as a work site, seeing that most of the employees are not PPS eligible. So it's kind of strange that you're working for a financial company, but you can't have their products.
Yes.
So with HR aligning, we've trained 4 of our advisors in all the group benefits, which is a Sanlam product.
Yeah.
And then they go in and they actually see the individual employees at PPS head office that can now qualify for a Liberty or a Discovery or a Sanlam or anything else. So
I think this is such a great lead generation prospecting tool to use, because it is non-invasive. It is not, you're not in somebody's face. They get the opportunity to sit there and decide, I like Lizette or I don't like Lizette, or whoever's standing in front. And from there, they either come to you afterwards or they just leave through the door and nobody's uncomfortable. Because I had that experience. I did something similar, but it was for another company. And I went to a big business, a well-known business, where I spoke to people, but I was there as a facilitator, not in the capacity of an advisor. At that point, I still had my practice, but I went there as a facilitator, and they sent their agent there. And I saw there was like executives, people with really maybe more complex needs than the normal person. Mm-hmm. And they would come to me afterwards, and then I would say, sorry, I can't help you. You need to go speak to that guy. And then they walk right through the door, and there they go, lost opportunity. And that's why I really realized that this is really a fantastic, if you can go with the purpose of educating, not with the purpose of getting a whole lot of like email addresses and telephone numbers and things like that. Your purpose is to educate. You will attract the right kind of person.
That's right.
That want to work with you in any event.
So whenever we do a presentation, and I always say a work site can be anything from 4 to 400 employees, the advisor needs to realize that they are there to build up credibility. That's the only thing they are doing there.
It's branding.
Yeah, it's just to sell yourself so that people will then make the one-on-one appointments.
Yeah, no, you're hitting the nail on the head, Lizette. I wish more people would do this, but for some reason, people don't like standing up and talking in front of people. If you can get over that fear, you have no idea what you can unlock for your business. Another thing, I don't know if you're looking at doing you've only been going now since what's it now? It's 6 months, 7, 8 months about.
Yeah, 1 June will be our anniversary, our
Yes,
1 year.
I will remember that. Are you planning to do events? I know PPS, and I don't want to go back to PPS, but I've seen on social media that they do a lot of events for clients, etc. Are you also planning to do these clients events? Is it going to be the form of a seminar or conference, or is it going to be more like a client appreciation event? Are you going to do a combination?
Our advisors have actually done most of those, but
Themselves.
remember, once again, they are self-employed. So they organize it, we provide the branding, and we often sponsor.
Okay.
We will come in with
So
a
you're
50%
doing it
of that.
already?
No, we have done quite a few. We actually did quite a big one in Soweto last year. And so we are out there. We try and once again not align to a specific product provider. Mm-hmm. So if we invite PPS, we will also invite Sanlam and Discovery and whoever that advisor is accredited to sell. So we keep it open. The sponsorships have to be open. We can never be seen as being to PPS.
Yes, no. So that's what I'm saying. I'm sorry I keep referring. I'm just saying that PPS are doing these events. Are you also doing events?
Yes, definitely.
And the whole reason is branding, attracting clients, that kind of thing, but also saying thank you for doing business with us. So what has the outcomes been of these few sessions that's already been? I mean, has there been some success stories from that?
Yes, definitely. Once again, the advisor must make sure that they get an opportunity to talk at these events, even if it's just very basic topics, just to get that credibility, so that when they do get the lists and they phone the clients, that there is actually people willing to talk to them.
At least they know the face and the name.
Yeah. Some of our advisors are still involved in things like the university projects or at big hospitals. So we have got, luckily, a lot of very established relationships in the professional market just because of the kind of recruiting that we've done. So I think we've been fortunate there. But once again, it does come down to the recruiting process, which is a 4-5 interview process. It can take up to 6 months. We do a lot of this pre-planning and strategizing.
Yeah. So
beforehand.
when that person comes in, they know what to do. It's not like, okay, now we need to figure out what's going to happen.
So ideally, they come with established relationships and open areas and contacts.
Okay. Why I'm asking about the outcomes of the events is that I've been a big proponent of you need to do client appreciation events. Another friend of mine, which you actually know, he always said, like, you know what, you should do these, especially when it's like maybe you've got extra time, you're not that busy. Phone clients and just say thank you for them for doing business. So that's also client appreciation. But I think where we lose out on a lot of opportunity is having an event. And it doesn't have to be an event for 100 people. It can be an event for 10 people or 5 people. You can bring a friend or you don't have to bring a friend, but it is that thank you and really showing them again what it is that you do. A lot of times it's giving them the opportunity to network with one another. You never know how much value that can add and what that does to the relationship, because if I introduce you to someone that suddenly makes your life easier, even if that was not the intention,
yes,
it can have a big impact.
I can give you 2 examples. One is we've got an advisor here in Randburg, and every December he orders meringues, these little cookies. Yeah. And he has them beautifully bagged. He puts a handwritten note to each of his clients, his top 20, and he has it couriered, he has it delivered. And that just opens so many sources of referrals. And then the other thing that we also try and get the guys to do is a lunch and learn. So you just invite 5 or 10 people around a table. There's no presentation. It's just talking to the people. And it's also not product specific. So you find out what is their need, what would they like to know more about. And you just go in and you take the pizza and you sit around and they invite their colleagues, and that seems to work really well as well.
It's interesting that you bring that up. I didn't have that on my list to ask about something like that. But one of the things that we've been considering, because we do these session prevets, like we do these small intimate, but they are more workshop training sessions kind of thing where we look at a specific topic. But also when we launched it, we said we want to get people together to debate and discuss certain industry topics or industry issues or things like that. And because one of the things is it's nice when you have a bigger business. You've got about 15 advisors, if I'm correct, at the moment already. You're aiming for 30 by the end of the year. I mean, so that's easy to say, well, guys, let's get together, even if it's 2 or 3 or 4 or 5 or all 50 of you, let's get together, let's have these discussions. But for the guy or the lady that's the independent, it's them, it's such a, we always hear, like, it's such a lonely, but trust me, it is lonely. I've been there. You know what, to have something like that where they can actually also get together and stop seeing each other as competition and rather as allies and colleagues that they can work with. So that's one of the things we are considering. Is that something that you think will be very valuable also to the person who wants to remain independent, who doesn't want to join a company? They like sorting out their own commission and their own compliance.
Definitely, Francois. I don't think the guys network enough inside the industry. What we try and do is, in our different regions, is at least do a quarterly breakfast and just invite the people. Because the one guy is good at discovery and the other guy really knows his Sanlam well. So they can network and refer clients and solve problems, and they get to know each other and they know who to pick the phone up to call if there is something that comes up. But on a bigger industry level, I've often thought that the model, the BNI, where you come together at 7:00 every week, if you could do something similar, maybe on a monthly basis, where you just have a guest speaker and you invite those people somewhere for an hour breakfast, it could really add value to the people, to the advisors out there on their own.
Yeah, no, that's awesome. I want to talk a little bit about technology. I'm a big lover of technology. I frustrate my wife with all my technology, but I'm very interested. I mean, you have now this opportunity to build this brokerage business practice from scratch. What technologies have you decided to utilize? Because obviously there's now different things. And I guess I'm going to make another assumption that you are leveraging off SFP's
That's correct.
existing infrastructure. So can you tell us a little bit about the technology you are using in the business?
So with our agreement as a juristic rep under the succession, the SFP license, we do have access to Sanfin. So the advisors actually get that for free.
Which is explained just for
Which
those
is,
who
yeah.
don't know.
So actually, the Sanfin that we are using has got 3 components. So the one is just the CRM system, which is hugely important. We really try and get the guys to use the CRM system because it is backed up. It's sitting in the cloud. You don't have to worry if your computer crashes and you lose your cell phone and you've got none of your client details. Then the next aspect is the F&A, which is the X-Plan, as you mentioned. We don't prescribe that as the only F&A, but obviously it's the one that they get as part of the package. Mm-hmm. So our guys that are used to Avalon or they want to use something else, they are more than welcome to, but then it's at their own expense. And then the third component is actually the compliance port. So that's also non-negotiable. So using the Sandport system, they actually have to upload all compliance documents into a container that opens. So if you tell it that you've got a risk product, it will actually tell you need to load the ID, you need to load this, you need to load that. And on the back end, the commission does not get paid unless the compliance is in place. So that is just one of the controls that are in place to make sure that people actually do their compliance.
Stay up to date.
Yeah, that's right.
Yes. A lot of practices or advisors would get an end-to-end system where you have like, call it X-Plan or Sanfin, which got the CRM, it's got the F&A, it's got the compliance, it's got those things. Is there any other technologies that you are using in the business to actually run the business, that makes it easier for advisors to communicate with clients or to, do things like that?
We haven't really been prescribing any technology because the guys are really self-employed. So they've all got their own processes and systems in place. We most probably could do a little bit more work on seeing what is available out there. Well, a part of our planning process is obviously segmenting the clients and segmenting the service delivery to the different clients. So there we're just really into contacting the client by email, by phone, but we haven't really investigated any further technology and how it would actually make their lives easier.
Okay. It's up to every person in your business to what they want to use. So somebody that's very au fait with technology can go all out.
That's right.
The person that hates technology, or like in inverted commas, they don't have to use technology. But I mean, still the stuff needs to at least go through Sanfin and Sandport and so forth.
So on the back end, it's not negotiable.
Okay. Then we did speak about recruitment a little bit. It was interesting to me that you said, it's a 3, 4, 5 interview process. So it's quite a process to go through. Can you talk us a little bit through the recruitment process? What are the things that you're looking for? What are the things that's important? Because again, I think there's a lot of people out there who maybe are looking at growing their practice through appointing more advisors, but also it might be that they just need to appoint staff. And what are the things that you're looking for? I know you said it a good fit, all those things, but how do you actually manage to determine whether they are a good fit or not?
So similar to an advisor that's looking for clients, I mean, it's also a numbers game. We get a lot of referrals. We are always talking to the guys. Who do you think we should be approaching? And then it's just a question of meeting them, doing that the initial introduction, looking then preferably getting some time to really understand their practice, to go through the actual figures, to see how the fit would be, what their long-term goals are, and how we can help them to achieve that. And so it's not a quick fix. We just find that it's from day one you're building the long-term relationship. We also obviously want to make sure that if we bring somebody in, they fit into the overall sort of strategies of aligning advisors in the long term, in making sure that there is succession planning. It's just a long process just to make sure that they are happy with us and we are happy with them.
So are you taking the time to get to know these people better?
Yes, we really do try to first get to know them, and it's part of just the whole process and the commission discussions and everything.
Okay, yeah, there's the negotiation part
Yes.
that obviously also prolongs this whole process. But do you do any kind of like psychometric testing, that kind of stuff?
Not really. I think because we've been working on the more established professional guys, we haven't really gone there. There are quite a few models out there, and part of our conference for May, we are actually going to put the guys through it's more a holistic test that is going to help them to understand themselves better. And our whole first day of our conference is actually going to be aligned with being resilient, how to understand yourself, how what you eat is actually affecting your performance. So we are really trying to look at them as holistic beings and how we can actually help them to succeed by doing that.
See, another unique approach. You don't hear people doing that a lot. So this is more from a self-development, self-awareness, as you said, know yourself better. I fondly remember back in 2000, was it? When did Big Brother first time air? 2001 or 2, I can't remember. It was around about there. And I can remember distinctly watching one of the episodes, and they have these diary room sessions. And then these people go, oh, I don't like this and I don't like that. And then I'm sitting there in a Free State thinking like, where the hell does this guy come up with these things? I don't even know whether I like blue or red. But they spend all this time. And I realized like maybe I should spend some more time getting to know what I like and what I don't like and why I'm doing certain things and why I'm not doing certain things, which has been a big part of my journey especially since 2014. But it's such an important thing. So I want to congratulate you on doing that.
Thank you.
I think it's going to be even the impact. I don't think, maybe you think you know what the impact's going to be, but I think once it happens, it might just surprise you just how big it is, and it will surprise them.
Yeah, well, we hope so. I think that typically the advisor or the agent that has been in the industry for 10 or 20 years, it's just been business as usual. They've never really taken that step back. So even as part of our sort of quarterly and semi-annual big planning sessions, we're really trying to get into what makes them happy, what do they want to do, as opposed to just, as I say, no targets from our side. So we're really trying to develop the individual to their full capacity.
And this just shows that you're living your values. You can't say that or your culture. You can't say that you are a caring company and that you and Ian, you care about developing, and you don't do any of these things, and you're actually doing it. So that, I think, speaks volume to that. You're not just saying, again, you are doing. And that's also something that seems to be a theme that is evolving throughout these interviews with people. You can see why people are successful. It's because there's a purpose, there's something that they love, and they are actually doing it. They're not just saying that they're doing it. They are actually doing it. So I'm quite excited to see where all these things go. So yeah, looking forward to hear more about that. Let's talk. You've alluded to this a little bit about learning. What is the philosophy in the business around continuous development, learning? Because that's the danger you sit with. You recruit experienced people, and I want to say experienced in inverted commas, because sometimes, just because you've been here for 20 years doesn't mean that you have 20 years experience. You could have been doing the same thing over and over and over again. You learned it once and you never kept up to date, and then you still think it's 1985 and you're still using the old tax rules from 1985. You never kept up to date. So what is the philosophy? Which things are you using in terms of that? Where do you see, how do you approach the whole learning?
I also always say repetition is not experience, just doing the same thing over and over.
I haven't heard that before. I'm making a note of that.
That's my saying.
Yeah, so
but it's so true.
LG said.
Yes. So what we have done is we have actually proactively committed to an online training course, which is obviously yours. And we have even paid for this year. So we've really taken the burden away from the advisor. We have given access to that. Now, also because everybody's so busy and everybody's running around, we've taken it a step further, and we've now set up group sessions where we come together, and when we actually listen to the YouTube session, we then discuss it. We look at the sort of 2 or 3 highlight points. We do the questions together. We discuss them. So from a learning point of view, I think it works really well to do the smaller groups for those people that can actually come in and do it. Now, unfortunately, the guys sitting in Polokwane or Potch, they have to make sure that they do it themselves. We have been tracking it very closely. We're keeping a file on everybody's CPD points. We don't want to get caught in May and having people that don't have the 18 points, because that could really be bad. So no, we're just trying to be more proactive and really follow up every month to see where they are and what they've done.
I mean, so CPD is one thing. I think when I came and spoke to you and Ian as well, I sort of, for me personally, it's not about the CPD. It's now a fit and proper requirement. So without that, you don't have a business. They can't give advice. So they don't have a business. But it is about the learning. It is about being better today than what you were yesterday. It is about continuously growing your experience, your skills, your knowledge, as well as your business. And the only way you can do that is through learning. And then obviously as a bonus, you get CPD with that. So that is very important for me. Do you share in that philosophy?
Definitely. We also try and sort of have a theme. At the moment, it's business assurance. So we really try and get the guys to read up as much as possible. We're bringing the theme through to our conference. So we really try and guide the guys and make sure that it's part of their personal development plan, and just to see which areas they need to learn more, and to make sure that the material or it's available for them to do it. But unfortunately, you can only take a person that far, and then you hope that you've recruited the right people that are self-starters and that are taking the industry seriously enough to go out there and do it themselves.
Yeah, I mean, if you can win with most of them, it's a job well done, because as you say, you can never win with everyone.
So unfortunately, I think this whole situation this year is going to clean up the industry a little bit. We could potentially see some fallout. I don't think necessarily in our space, but I think there are some serious concerns out there for maybe the lone wolf that just to make time to get those 18 CPD points is going to be a mission.
No, I agree with you. I think there's going to be some interesting. We'll see when end of May comes. I trust they will not be giving
extension
dates and all sorts of things. Then revenue. So I want to talk about revenue streams in the business, how you're setting it up. So when I refer to revenue streams, it's sort of the different types of income that you can earn, because a lot of times let me just go general. There are practices that are fee only. There are practices that's fee based. There are practices that are commission only. There are practices that are hybrid. Which sort of approach are you taking at this point?
Currently, it's not unique, but I think it's a strong model that we are currently following. And that is that we have a filter or a funnel that all your commission comes through. And that's first year, second year, retentions, bonuses, everything comes through the same funnel and gets split on the same percentage. So we don't distinguish. Some guys will give you more for risk and less for investments. So we give you a flat commission fee on everything. We also do have referral agreements in place, so those fees will also come through. And then fee-based is the future. So currently we have had some invoices go out to clients, and that then also comes through the normal commission structure and then gets split at the same percentages. So if you're on a 90-10, everything will go through on the 90%, whether it's fees, whether it's commission, whether it's index. So everything, any referrals to the short-term companies, we funnel it through the same percentage split. We aren't just one foot fits all. We have got some guys asking fees, and we do think that is going to be more prevalent in the future as clients actually start looking at that as a good value proposition.
Definitely. And you know how many people tell me that clients won't pay? And then I go but I remember fondly back in the day when I helped somebody sort out a problem and they say, please send me your invoice. And I'm like, no, this is all included, don't worry. There are people, I'm not saying everybody, but there are people who expect to pay for when you provide a service, provided that service was of high quality and it was a value add. So that is crucial. But I think a lot of the problems start with our own thinking around fee-based. And I'm not saying, I don't think in South Africa, in the professional market, I think fee only could even work because they all work only on fees. Mm-hmm. So somebody who understands that a lot easier. I see that a lot with business owners, the professionals, etc. They expect to get an invoice and to pay for it. Other people, if you go to, I don't want to mention job titles, but you go to somebody who's salaried, they may say, what, 5,000 Rand for this plan or 750 Rand for this plan? Are you mad? And they would just not, it will never work. So I think in South Africa as a whole, there is a big opportunity to have this hybrid kind of model because you need to be adaptable. You need to provide people with choice. If I prefer to pay a fee versus paying commission, then I want to be able to do that. Or if I want to say, well, let me pay part of it in with a fee, and then the rest is, let's say the advice is an upfront fee, the ongoing advice and service we then might do assets under management. Also, I don't believe that that's a sustainable thing long term, but still, I think it's horses for courses. So you've got to know your client, the value you add for that client, and then how profitable that client will be for the business. You're still running a business. This is not a charity.
That's right. The biggest challenge, of course, currently is that a lot of the product providers can't actually split out the commissions out of the current system. So you kind of stuck with the client will have to just pay the commission, and that's the only choice.
Yeah, there's some interesting things that people have been doing. So I'm not going to run this. I'm interviewing somebody that's got a very unique approach to that and what he does with when he can't discount the commission or when they can't, because there are, as you said, there are product providers who do not actually allow for the commission to be taken out. Those who do, I mean, you see up to a 20% difference in the contribution. So it does make a big difference. But they've got another solution for that when that happens. So I'll talk to you off air, but I don't want to mention it in the podcast because that's quite an interesting approach. But there's it can be a little bit, because that's, I think, one of the other challenges with charging fees is that now I've got to run after money and now I've got to, whereas I do conclude 10 pieces of business this month or this week.
I know it.
And then I get one commission statement with everything and all my money. Whereas now I've got to run after 10 clients getting their fees. But there's pros and cons to everything.
I think long-term depends on the client and the relationship you've got with them and how well they are ring-fenced and what other business you are doing for them. And then this most probably can be some compromise where you're paying commission here, but I'm charging you less upfront fees there, or I'll invoice you for this specific service, but then we're going to discount it on that side again. Yeah,
and what's nice, I mean, with most of our commission structures, whether it's on investments or whether we've been negotiating for years.
Yes.
It's not like in the UK where now
it's prescriptive.
It's now fees. But
yes.
With us, you change the name from commission to fee. It's still the same thing because you could have negotiated on investments for a long time. So I think that's important. Is there a specific focus in the business? Because here's the thing. I mean, we can give advice and we should be paid for advice. We can implement solutions, we must be paid for. And then we need to monitor, review. And that's my view. There's 3 distinct sort of stages that you could actually, where you are. So if you look at when am I adding value, it's here, then you can charge for it. If it's here, it's your choice whether you want to or not. I still see a lot of people doing 0% fees when they do the investment, but then they take the ongoing. I don't believe in that. I think you should charge something for the upfront advice. It shouldn't be only the ongoing.
Once again, because we've got so many different advisors in different stages of their practice development, we don't really have one model that fits all. We do tend to see that the younger guys will definitely take up to the 1%. We try and keep it below that. Upfront, where your more established advisors will only take a 0.5 ongoing and they'll never take any upfront. So it is part of the practice development and getting the guys to that level as the business grows and the client base, the relationship gets more established.
You touch on such an important point now, Lizette. One of the biggest challenges, I think, is that we sit here in our ivory towers or wherever you're sitting, and then from a point of view say, oh, but that person is doing that, but that's not the best thing, or that's not appropriate. Or you just have this idea about what's right and what's wrong, and you've lots to say, but you're not in that person's shoes. You're not looking his wife in the eyes, having to put bread on the table. So I always say, as long as, and this is the one thing that one of the companies I worked for, that they actually said, is that everybody in that relationship needs to benefit. So it's the product provider, it's the advisor, and the client. And I think it's always like that. As long as you are reasonable with what you're doing and you're adding the value and you are delivering on your promises, then if the client is then willing to, that's what an open market is that I then feel that I can, it's if we negotiate on any price, even if it's 10% of the investment value, if the client was happy to do that, but there is things that they get in return and they deem that to be valuable, then there shouldn't be an issue. We shouldn't be saying, one of the things that I've been coming out a lot is saying that, we need to be careful with ongoing advice fees, because ongoing fees, that platform fees, asset management, anything that's of a recurring nature has got a huge impact on the long-term value of somebody's investment. So whatever you're charging, make sure that you are providing the value, and that if you take 1%, that you are giving 10%. And I'm talking about return. There needs to be more value. You can't always, because you can't dictate what the markets are going to do.
Yes.
So those things are very important from that perspective. But the one thing we should stop doing is criticizing and looking at everybody like, no, but that guy, no, this guy is doing it the right way, and that's the only way. No. There's horses for courses, and we need to understand that we are in different stages of our lives and of our businesses. And it seems like you are very, very aware of that. Yeah,
we try and really be cognitive of where the advisors are and what they need to be successful. Because it also doesn't help you work them out of the industry within 6 months just because you're being so prescriptive in what they can or can't do.
So you won't have a business.
Yeah, and then we don't have a business.
You know what's the one thing that keeps on jumping out and that makes me like, wow, this is amazing, is that this whole focus on enabling them to do what they do well. You're really creating the environment, you're really creating the infrastructure, and then still allowing them to have the choice.
Yes, because just like the client needs to perceive the value that they're paying the fee for, our advisors need to perceive the value that they are paying the commission split for. So whether it's a 10% or a 20%, they need to feel that they are not being done in, that they really are getting the support and the guidance and the growth and everything that makes it worth being in our model as opposed to being somewhere else.
Yeah. As a percentage of total revenue, let's just quickly talk about the different sources of revenue, because the one is obviously ongoing advice fees, which comes from assets under management. As a percentage, more or less, where is that at the moment, seeing that you've only been running for about 8 months?
We currently have 235 million assets under management.
Yeah.
And most of our guys are sitting on a 0.5 ongoing fee.
That's also amazing.
So we're just bringing in a big book that's going to be over $1 billion. So that is going to change the model.
Skew it a little bit.
A little bit. But on average, our total income split is running at 11% at the moment.
From advice fees?
No, from all income streams.
Okay.
So we don't really measure the different products as such. As the overall income stream, we take about 11%. Which means that our advisors get, on average, 89% goes to the advisor. That's right.
Okay. What I'm interested in seeing is so of that revenue, how do you know how it's split between
on an individual basis?
Between the products, not.
I do have those figures, but not sort of on hand at the moment. But we're about 50-50 risk and investments at this stage. Very small on the medical and the short term. It's just small referral fees and things. Yeah. So imminently by the end of this month, everything will look very different.
Okay. But that's amazing. Is there a specific strategy around, or are you again leaving it to the advisor to do what they are most comfortable with and whatever happens, happens?
Up till now, we found that we were attracting a lot of risk writers. It was just, I think, the sort of first group of people that we spoke to. They were very big in the PPS Sanlam professional market.
I wanted to ask now, so how many of these guys were already supporters of PPS and then saying, oh, but I want a bit more?
Yes. So about 9 of the current people did have a strong PPS book. We've actually had some discovery people come in that have never even heard of PPS before. So, but they had the professional focus. So up till now, I think just by default, because we got a lot of referrals in-house, we have had a very strong risk focus specifically. But as we're going broader and broader out there, we are now bringing in some advisors that actually 90% of their income is recurring. So they have a very small new business risk focus.
Yeah.
So it's definitely changing.
Do you think it's important to have a balance between that so that you may have one guy who's focused on this and then another lady who's very focused on the other side? Are you looking to have like a balance?
We're definitely looking at that balance. Also, I mean, we try and strive to get the young guys to get into the position where they have a strong recurring income every month. So that's what we're always working towards. And now luckily we have the examples of that it does really work in the long term. So no, we're definitely always looking at different people, different stages of development of their brokerage. So we'll always keep that kind of open model in place.
Just from a practical point of view, the advisors, they all sit in their own offices. You don't provide office space?
No, we don't provide anything. We provide the Sanfin system, the PI cover, the compliance issues. We handle queries and things, but the people are self-employed, so they need to come in with their own infrastructure. A lot of them do work from home. They need their own IT support, IT systems, which is also why we can't be too prescriptive on what they do. So they get a tax directive, and obviously they have lots and lots of tax deductions.
Do they have people working for them? Do they have their own staff?
Some of them do. A lot have actually got 2 assistants working for them. A lot of them have 1 permanent assistant, and then they will get somebody in from time to time to come and do phone calls or special projects. But yeah, most of them do actually have a back office.
Okay, so if you say most of them, I can assume that a few of them do not have anybody.
The younger guys are still working on their own.
Okay.
Yeah. So we've got a few guys that have only been in the industry 3-4 years, and they find that they are still just working on their own.
When do you decide to appoint someone? Because, I mean, you're in operations. I think you got a very good understanding that you can't do nothing without people. People is what gives you scale. People is what open up opportunities, and it frees up your time. And I see a lot of these people, like they're struggling. You will talk to them, they're struggling, or they're finding it not necessarily struggling. They might do well enough to have, to at least have a good standard of living, but they're not going further. They want to, but they're not. But they feel that they're in that position where I cannot employ someone now because now I need to take 10,000 Rand or whatever and pay that person. I don't even know what the going rate would be, but whatever that salary is, that's money. That's my money I need to give to someone else. and they cannot see how much more they can do if they had somebody doing all the stuff that they're sitting late at night doing and all that kind of stuff. So when do you think people should, in fact, start looking at getting help?
Francois, that's actually one of the modules we cover in practice development. We do sit with the individuals and say, where are you and where do you want to go? And we look at time management and how much time they're actually spending doing the admin. And we also go so far as to calculate their average hourly income to then convince them that you're earning 3,000 and you could be paying somebody else 100 per hour to do the things that you are doing. But unfortunately, very individually dependent on where they are. We will try and help them when it comes to the recruiting, making sure that the right contracts are in place, making sure that there's no HR issues that they're not meeting. But yeah, unfortunately, I think it's usually when they really start getting to the point where they can run at sort of seeing 10 to 15 people a week, that they then realize that I must really focus on seeing the clients and not be sitting wasting my time in an office.
One of the things that my opinion and what I'm thinking about, because I think about these things a lot, is that the mistake they make is looking at it as an expense.
Yes, instead of an opportunity.
And an investment, definitely.
So we really try and convince them that it's a really good investment in your business.
Yes, absolutely. And I mean, you can start with an intern kind of person if you want to keep that salary as low as possible.
Or just somebody in the mornings.
Or share somebody.
We actually have a model in place where we have got somebody in Potch that is outsourcing their back office. Mm-hmm. So for as little as 3,000 a month, our other advisors are using that service where those ladies are actually then doing a lot of their back office. So
on that note, let's talk quickly. I'm getting to the end now, but let's talk about paraplanning. From do you have a view on paraplanning in the business and maybe in general?
Not something that at this point we would bring in-house. I think because the different product providers are offering a lot of those services and, it is out there. So because of the professional market, the guys are getting it with the product providers. And I think there's a lot of structures in place that we don't have to duplicate at an extra expense at this stage.
Okay. So I mean, from paraplanning, how do you define paraplanning from your point of view?
Okay, you mean on the F&A side?
So people have different views around paraplanning. So you can send a legal advisor or you can do things, but that's not...
Depends on the complexity of the case. We are not extremely prescriptive on the kind of F&A that you do. We feel that a one-page F&A for the right clients is the right tool. We don't expect you to do a 50-page comprehensive plan every time you see a client. Yeah, at this stage, it's just working as it is. So I'm not sure where we will go in future.
Yeah, okay. Then let's get a little bit personal. Not too personal, but just a little bit. Can you tell us a crazy but true fact about Lizette?
Well, I've lived in Canada for 10 years so far, and while I was there, I was actually a private pilot.
Sure.
So I flew with Civil Air Search and Rescue quite extensively as a navigator and a spotter. But yeah, I also had my own license. So.
Yes, see, I've known you for little bit for a while, but never knew that.
Yes.
Yes, okay. Very interesting. And you also shared with me that you went on like an 18-kilometer walk yesterday.
Hike.
Hike?
So, yes.
I wouldn't be here if I went on an 18-kilometer hike yesterday, I can promise you that.
So yeah, I do a lot of hiking at this stage in the Magaliesburg with the Joburg Hiking Club.
Yeah.
So yeah, you might see me hanging on ladders, going up the mountain or coming down on ropes, and they're not being able to lift my arms up for 3 days, but we're having fun.
How important is that for your professional life?
For me, exercise has always been a huge part of stress management and just getting the most out of my being. So I really do enjoy being outside, being in nature, and then getting the fitness, keeping the fitness up.
Yeah, that is so important. It's something that I let go of completely. So for those that know me, and it's something where I think it came in November. I decided I'm going to die before I hit 50. So it's now the time to do something, and it's hard. It's not an easy thing. So once you're in it, stay in it.
Yeah, definitely. I think that's always my advice.
But the benefits,
don't lose your fitness.
Yeah, because it's so hard to get it back. And you just as you get going, you maybe get
Life
ill.
happens, yeah.
And you're sick. Or, you go to this conference waar hulle net pastytjie said. So then it's so difficult. So it makes it so difficult then. So you also got to learn it. I mean, the fitness is the one side because that helps with stress management and energy and those kind of things. But also, being able to make the right choices when you get into those situations where things may be, if you strictly follow a diet and you get to a place where, then you're not going to eat anything for the whole day because your diet does not allow, or can you make better decisions around that? I think that is so important to be able to do that rather.
No, I think definitely looking at the holistic person, that is just such an important part is physical wellness. It just leads to mental wellness and sharpness, and it's a very important.
Where does this whole person thing come from? Because you've mentioned it a few times. Where does that come from?
I think years of, looking at it. And Ian and myself are very religious, so we really bring that into the business. We try and bring across the importance of believing in something bigger than yourself and just being a holistic person and just,
not just focusing on that one thing.
Not just focusing on the money side of the business.
Which we tend to do.
Yes. We're still trying to convince our board.
Yeah, of course, you see shareholders and stakeholders are different. Then I think we're sort of at the end now, but I want to ask you, and I ask this to all my guests, what do you believe is the one thing that's holding back financial professionals, whether it's a financial planner or an accountant or a tax planner, whatever, if you're in financial services, what is the one thing that's holding them back from building that practice? I'm not talking about somebody who says, I'm happy to be a one-man show or a one-woman show, and that's what I want to be for the rest of my life because I don't like managing a lot of people. I just want to do, and I'm happy earning whatever. But there's many people who's got this dream, they have this ambition, they want to build this big business, this big practice, but they just feel that they can't do that. It's not that they said that, I think that they feel that they can't do it. They think they can do it, but yet they don't do it. What do you think is the thing keeping them back?
I always think there's two aspects. One is education, that this continuous learning, which I think is now being forced on us. But the other thing is focus. They're just trying to be all things to all people, and thereby they are just not doing anything well. So we really try and get the guys to segment their clients, to focus the right thing for the right client, and to be smarter and work smarter and not harder. So I really think focus is the one big thing that distinguishes a professional, successful advisor from a generalist.
Yes. And does focus then include implementation, action, doing?
Definitely. Processes as well, then most probably, as operational. We didn't even get to the processes.
We didn't get to processes and all of that. But
it is another very important aspect in anybody's successful practice, is to apply some kind of process. So we also really try and spend some time on that, on how are you doing it now? Can you do it better?
Yeah. So I think that's something we will definitely do a follow-up interview and have a discussion around a lot of those things. And but with that, Lizette, thank you so much for taking the time. You came here all the way from Pretoria. Thank you very much. I really appreciate it. I think there's a lot of valuable information that we discussed today, and that people are going to get a lot of value from this, even if they're just a one-man show wanting to build their business into a little bit more, offering something better, or go to the person who's aspiring to build the next financial solutions for professionals. Thank you very much. I appreciate it.
Thank you, Francois. Thanks a lot.
Thank you for listening to Propulsion. If you found this episode valuable, please subscribe and leave us a review on iTunes or your favorite podcasting platform. This will help us tremendously. For more about Propulsion and other valuable information, please visit our website at propulsion.co.za.